As they piled into the van, Lydia's phone buzzed again. This time, the message was from an unknown number. She hesitated before opening it, but once she did, she felt the air leave her lungs. It was a video. Her father's face filled the screen, and he was speaking directly to her. "Lydia, you've made a huge mistake," his voice echoed, cold and filled with venom. "If you think I'll let this slide, you're wrong. The people you're rallying? They don't know the whole story. They don't understand the price of what you're doing. I will make sure you regret this." Lydia's pulse raced. His threats had never been more real. He wasn't just going to sit back and watch. He would fight back with everything he had. Her father's face appeared again on the screen, this time with a familiar face beside him. Her mother. Her heart clenched. Her mother was sitting next to her father, her eyes filled with guilt and confusion. Lydia could hear her mother's voice faintly in the background. "Lydia, please," her mother was saying, her voice strained. "You have to come back. Your father is doing everything he can to protect you. This isn't you. You don't know what you're doing. Come home. We'll fix this together. Please, come back before it's too late." Lydia felt the lump in her throat swell, but she quickly wiped away the tears. She couldn't be swayed. She couldn't turn back now. Her father's voice came again, dark and chilling. "You're running out of time, Lydia. You can't hide from the truth forever. You can't fight me and expect to win." Lydia turned off her phone, the weight of his words pressing down on her chest. The fear that had been simmering beneath her resolve was now impossible to ignore. Her father wasn't just a businessman anymore. He was a monster, willing to destroy everything in his path to protect his empire. But there was no turning back. She had to finish what she started. Kofi glanced at Lydia, sensing the tension in the air. "We're almost there. We just need to get to the safe house." The van rumbled as they sped through the streets of Lagos, avoiding the main roads in an attempt to stay out of sight. Lydia glanced out the window, her mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. Her father had the power to make her life a living nightmare, but she couldn't let him silence her. Not now. Not after everything they had done. Her phone buzzed again, and this time it wasn't a message from her father. It was from the journalist Kofi had contacted. "We're in position. Send us the files." Lydia breathed a sigh of relief. She was so close to exposing her father, to revealing the full extent of the empire he had built on lies and corruption. The files they had gathered would change everything. "We're here," Kofi said, as the van pulled up to a nondescript building on a quiet street. The safe house. The three of them climbed out quickly, keeping their heads low. Lydia could feel the weight of the files in her bag, knowing that the truth was finally going to see the light of day. But as they approached the door, Lydia saw something that stopped her in her tracks. A black SUV was parked across the street, and standing by the car, watching them, was someone Lydia had hoped she would never see again. Her mother. Lydia froze. Her mother was standing across the street, her figure outlined by the streetlights. For a moment, it felt like time had stopped. Lydia's heart pounded in her chest as she stared at the woman who had given her life, the woman who had raised her with love and care, and yet, the woman who had betrayed her in the worst way possible. Her father had always been ruthless, but her mother had always been the one person Lydia believed would stand by her no matter what. Seeing her mother here, watching her with that distant, conflicted expression, was the final blow. Lydia felt a wave of bitterness and confusion wash over her. "Why is she here?" Lydia whispered, her voice barely audible, as if speaking too loudly would make this moment even more painful. Kofi, who had been walking beside Lydia, turned sharply to look at her mother. His expression was cautious, wary. "This isn't good," he muttered. "We need to stay focused, Lydia. Your father is playing all his cards now. He's trying to break you. Don't let him." Lydia took a deep breath, trying to steady her emotions. She couldn't let her mother's presence throw her off track. They had come too far, and her father's empire was crumbling. The truth would come to light, no matter who tried to stop them. But as her mother stepped forward, her eyes pleading, Lydia felt her heart shatter. "Lydia," her mother called out softly, her voice shaking. "Please, don't do this. Come home. You don't understand what's happening. Your father, he's trying to protect you. He only wants what's best for you." Lydia shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. "No, Mom. He's been lying to me my whole life. He's been lying to all of us. How could you stand by him after everything he's done?" Her mother took a step closer, her eyes filled with sorrow. "I've tried to protect you, Lydia. I've done everything to keep you safe. Your father, he's dangerous. I know you think he's the enemy, but he's not. He just wants control. He's doing what he thinks is right. If you expose him, everything will fall apart, Lydia. Your life will fall apart. Do you understand? Lydia's voice was barely a whisper, the anger and betrayal seeping through her words. You don't understand. You're the one who's letting him destroy everything. I won't be part of this anymore, Mom. I can't. Her mother's face crumpled as tears filled her eyes. Please, Lydia, I'm begging you. This isn't what you want. You're playing into their hands. They'll destroy everything we've worked for. Your father, Hill. Lydia couldn't listen anymore. She turned away, her heart breaking as she walked toward the door of the safe house. Her mother's voice echoed in her ears, but she couldn't stop now. This was bigger than family, bigger than anything her father had ever built. She had to finish this. Kofi and Amma followed closely behind, their faces grim but resolute. Kofi motioned for Lydia to hurry. We can't afford to wait. Your mother isn't going to let this go, but we've got a chance to end it all now. As they entered the safe house, Lydia slammed the door behind them, the heavy weight of what had just happened settling on her shoulders. She felt hollow, like a part of her was gone, lost in the fight. Her mother's betrayal had cut deeper than anything her father had ever done to her. Inside, the safe house was dimly lit, with a few tables set up for their makeshift operation. There were a couple of journalists sitting in the corner, laptops open, waiting for the files that Lydia had brought. The atmosphere was tense but focused. Lydia handed the stack of documents to the nearest journalist, her hands still trembling. This is it, she said, her voice low. Everything you need to take him down. The journalist, a young woman with short dark hair and glasses, glanced at Lydia with understanding before immediately diving into the files. The others in the room began their work, analyzing the documents, cross-referencing information. Lydia collapsed into a chair, her head spinning. What had just happened? Her mother had always been her support, the one person who believed in her. And now, she was the one trying to drag her back into her father's world. Amma sat next to her, her eyes soft but filled with determination. You did the right thing, Lydia. The people need to know the truth. Your father is a monster, and this is the only way to stop him. Lydia nodded slowly, wiping away the tears that had gathered in her eyes. But at what cost, Amma? My mother. She's so lost in his world. I don't know if I can fix that. I never thought I'd have to choose between her and the truth. Kofi leaned in, his voice gentle. You can't save everyone, Lydia. You have to do what's right, even when it's hard. This is about the future, not just the past. Lydia looked up at him, seeing the truth in his eyes. I know, but that doesn't make it easier. The hours passed quickly as the journalists worked, pulling together the evidence and preparing their stories. Lydia could feel the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders. Every choice she made now would shape the future, for her family, and for the country. Her father's empire of lies was on the verge of collapse, but the final battle was still ahead. Just as they were finishing up, Lydia's phone buzzed again. It was another message from her father. You don't have to go through with this, Lydia. You're making a mistake. I'm offering you one last chance. Come home. You know I'll do anything to protect you. If you choose to go down this path, you'll lose everything. Everything you've ever known. Lydia stared at the message, the words sinking in deep. Her father was threatening her again. But this time, it felt different. The finality in his words was like the closing of a door, one she could never walk back through. Kofi looked over her shoulder, reading the message. He's trying to manipulate you again. Don't let him. Lydia turned off her phone, her hands shaking. I can't go back now. Not after everything we've done. But even as she spoke, doubt lingered in the back of her mind. Would she ever be free from his grip? Would she ever be able to rebuild the life she had once known? The room fell silent as the journalists stood up, holding the printed stories. They had everything they needed. The truth was finally going to be shared with the world. But before Lydia could speak, a loud knock at the door echoed through the safe house. The knock at the door echoed like a warning, sending a chill down Lydia's spine. Her breath hitched, and for a moment, everything seemed to freeze. The people in the room, who had been busy preparing to release the truth, all looked up in alarm. The tension was palpable. Kofi stood first, his expression hardening as he moved toward the door. Stay behind me, he whispered to Lydia. If it's him, we won't back down. Lydia nodded, feeling a surge of adrenaline. It was clear that the battle was far from over. They had the files. They had the evidence. But her father was a man who had spent his life in control, and now, with the truth in their hands, it was his world that was crumbling. There was no telling what he would do to stop them. The knock came again, more forceful this time. "Who is it?" Kofi called, his voice calm but edged with suspicion. "It's me." A voice responded from the other side of the door. "It's your contact. Let me in." Lydia's heart skipped a beat. The voice was unfamiliar, but the urgency in it rang true. She moved to the side, stepping back as Kofi slowly unlocked the door. When it opened, a tall, slim man with dark glasses stepped inside. He wore a black suit, his face expressionless, but his eyes were quick and alert. Behind him, Lydia saw a small group of men, all dressed in tactical gear. Her first instinct was to run, but something about the way the man stood, with confidence, but not arrogance, told her he wasn't here to harm them. Kofi immediately straightened, his posture rigid. "You're early," he muttered, scanning the newcomers. The man in the front nodded. "We're here to help. I've been in contact with some of your people. Your father's security has mobilized. They've been tracking your location for hours. We need to move, and fast." Lydia's stomach dropped. Her father's men had been tracking them this whole time. "How do you know all this?" Lydia asked, trying to stay calm. "I'm part of the group that's been following your father for years," the man said, stepping further into the room. "We've been waiting for the right time to expose him. Now's that time. You don't have much longer before your father makes his next move." Lydia felt a wave of urgency flood her. The truth was out, yes, but her father wasn't the kind of man who would go down without a fight. He would burn everything to the ground before he let go of his empire. "We've got to get these files to the public," Kofi said, his voice low and determined. "It's now or never." The man in the suit glanced at the files in Lydia's hand and nodded. "They've already been secured in multiple places, but we need to keep the momentum going. Your father will try to discredit everything. He'll stop at nothing." Lydia's hands clenched into fists as she looked at the files. She knew this wasn't just about her anymore. It was about every single person her father had exploited. It was about justice. And now, it was about survival. Just then, the sound of footsteps approaching the door froze everyone in place. Lydia's pulse quickened as the footsteps grew louder. Her father's men. They had found them. "Move," the man in the suit commanded sharply. "There's no time. The distraction's over." With lightning speed, the group began to prepare, grabbing the files and packing up anything that could help them get to safety. Lydia's heart raced as the reality of the situation hit her like a tidal wave. Her father was coming for them, and they had no choice but to fight back. Kofi grabbed Lydia's arm, pulling her toward the back exit. "This is it. We can't turn back now." As they stepped outside, the dark night air hit Lydia's face, but there was no time to enjoy the coolness. The tension in the air was thick, and the sound of sirens in the distance told her that time was running out. Her father's men were closing in. "We need to get to the city center," the man in the suit said as they moved quickly through the back alleys. "We have a contact there who can help us get the message out. Once the world knows the truth, your father's game is over." Lydia nodded, her body moving on autopilot as the plan unfolded in front of her. Every step felt like a countdown. She could almost feel her father's presence, looming like a shadow in the dark, his influence stretching across every corner of her world. But Lydia wasn't afraid anymore. She had the truth, and the truth was powerful. As they reached the edge of the alley, Lydia saw the unmistakable headlights of several SUVs parked ahead. Her heart sank as she realized that her father's men had arrived faster than expected. They were trapped. Lydia turned to Kofi, panic flashing in her eyes. "We're cornered. What do we do?" The man in the suit remained calm, scanning the area. "We don't fight them head-on. We need to split up. Amma, take the files and go with one of the backup teams. Kofi, you and I will create a diversion. Lydia, you stay close to me. We'll make it to the city center. Trust me." Lydia didn't hesitate. She nodded, her resolve firm. The man in the suit wasn't wrong. This was their last chance to make sure the truth was out for good. They couldn't afford to get caught now. The diversion was set. A few of the team members moved toward the SUVs, drawing the attention of the guards. The rest of the group, including Lydia, Kofi, and the man in the suit, slipped through a side alley, heading in the opposite direction. Lydia's heart raced as they ran, her legs pumping as fast as they could. She could hear the sound of shouting behind them, the clattering of boots hitting the pavement, but they kept moving. Every second counted. They reached the city center, the lights of Lagos glowing brightly in the distance. The plan was in motion. As they approached the media contact's location, the tension that had been building for days finally reached its peak. The world would soon know the truth. But just as Lydia thought they were in the clear, a familiar voice cut through the chaos. Lydia. She turned around, her blood running cold. Her father was standing at the far end of the street, flanked by several of his men, his eyes filled with rage. "Stop right there," he commanded, his voice echoing through the night. Lydia's heart skipped a beat. This was it, the final confrontation. And she knew one thing for certain: nothing would ever be the same.